So I would first of all like to welcome you all to our webinar this afternoon. Thank you very much for signing up and joining us this afternoon. My name is Natalie Merritt and I'm the Head of Knowledge Dissemination in Schools, and I work in the Schools Division at Anna Freud. So I'd like to warmly welcome you to our webinar this afternoon, which will provide a brief introduction to the topic of self-harm within education settings. With our expert panel, we'll look at the signs and causes and how to support the well-being of young people who are self-harming. We'll also think about supporting staff and colleagues within the school or college community who are directly working with these young people. So before we begin, I just wanted to give a quick trigger warning. Obviously, we know that the webinar is focused on self-harm, and there might be elements of the webinar this afternoon that could be upsetting or triggering, depending on potentially your own personal or professional experience of the topic. So please do feel free to look after your well-being. Please step away from your screen if you need to. And with this in mind, we'll also be recording the webinar, so you will have the opportunity to access it later at a time when you feel completely safe and comfortable to do so. So just touching on the aims of our webinar today, which is really introducing self-harm prevention in schools and colleges. So these are some of the things that we hope today will introduce you to. So first of all, we hope it will help you to understand what self-harm is and is not. Also to recognise some of the signs and causes of young people self-harming. We'll also be looking at a whole school or college approach to preventing self-harm. Also thinking about supporting not just the young people, but also the well-being of staff and colleagues who may be supporting these young people. And then lastly, we're glad to be able to welcome a young champion with us today, Emily, who'll be talking about their lived experience as well. So we will talk on all of these things and hopefully give you a bit of an overview of all of these. Then just before we get into the content of today, just a quick bit of housekeeping before we start. So for this afternoon's webinar, all attendee microphones and cameras are switched off. If you would like to submit a question to our speakers, please do pop this into the Q&A box, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. Our support team will also be monitoring the Q&A, so if you have any technical questions, do let us know. We have closed captioning available during the webinar, and so you're able to enable or disable. You can also make the text smaller in the settings at the bottom of your screen if you would like to. And as mentioned, the webinar will be recorded and it will be shared on our Anna Freud YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks. And where we have permission from speakers, we will share the presentation slides with you. So before we get into the webinar, I just wanted to acknowledge it's obviously Children's Mental Health Week, which is a very significant week especially for us that work in the mental health sector. And the theme this year is Know Yourself, Grow Yourself. So I just wanted to mention that we have these monthly toolkits that come out every month from our Mentally Healthy Schools team. And we currently have one on the themes. We have one for primary, we have one for secondary and FE, and we always put these together. Monthly, they go out for free. They're emailed directly to your inbox. So if you would like to sign up to our Mentally Healthy Schools newsletter, I would highly recommend. It will be a variety of resources, so some for pupils, some aimed at staff, and they're always really practical, evidence-based resources that you can just pick up and use, and they're often related to awareness days and weeks of the particular month. So again, this week, Children's Mental Health Week, this is our February newsletter. Then just wanted to mention also, you can share any of your thoughts today with us on social media. So first of all, if you have any questions, you can always email us, schoolsinmind@annafreud.org. We'll be monitoring this inbox. And then on social media, our handle is @AFNCCF. And you can also hashtag schoolsinmind. So really, really pleased to now just provide an overview of the timetable today. We're going to be moving on very shortly to hear from my colleague Kaylee Lan. We will also be hearing from Emily, as mentioned, a young champion at Anna Freud. And then we'll have a presentation by Vicky Saywood, who's our head of training at Anna Freud. And then finally, we'll be ending with a Q&A. So again, please do put your questions in the Q&A box, and we will answer as many as we can before wrapping up this evening. So I'm going to kick off tonight's webinar with Kaylee Lan. I'm going to hand over to Kaylee in a second. Kaylee will be doing her presentation, which is around understanding self-harm, and she will also then be introducing Emily, our young champion, and they will be having a discussion based on her lived experience. So to introduce Kaylee, I'm really, really pleased to have Kaylee, who is a close colleague of mine, join us this evening. Kaylee is a highly skilled mental health professional with 17 years experience across both clinical and education settings. Her career began as a psychologist working clinically in the NHS, where she held several key positions, therapeutically supporting children, young people and families, as well as contributing to several large-scale international research projects. Kaylee later joined her local education authority as head of mental health, pioneering whole school mental health strategy that established a culture of trauma-informed and relational care across multiple education settings. Her strategic role included policy and strategy guidance, creating and delivering training, developing reflective supervision spaces for staff, and building a